Welcome, Bradenton, Kiwanis, and members. My name is Mike Baer. I'm proud to be your president this year. We've got a great program in store for you today. We're going to go right into our program today, as we've got a pretty busy schedule. Hear ye, hear ye. Judge Gilbert Smith, please take the podium.
Thank you for allowing me to speak today. I hope you have fun and enjoy the program today. But the first thing before we have some announcements and go back to business for a minute is on your table is a folder, and it is entitled Bradenton Kiwanis Lawyers Quiz. So you should open that up now, and during the program today, you are going to be, this is going to be an easy quiz because everyone here has read Champions of Children. And so I want you to look at that and then circle the names of the lawyers that are shown in that mural, and their names are on the chart of all the members that were of this club that are attorneys. So, and at the end of the meeting, there's going to be a little famous door prize that I always give out. So
Gilbert, just to be clear, we're circling members of the club on the photograph that were attorneys, that were lawyers. Okay, perfect. Without further ado, I would like to invite one of our longtime members and also an attorney, Mr. Cliff Walters, to take the stage, and he will be kicking off the rest of the program. Take it away, Cliff.
Thank you, Mike. In our invocation, the Reverend Gary spoke the truth. Every hair on your head is numbered. How well we know. All right, okay, well, I'm really up here to talk about Judge Gilbert Smith. I'd like to say that he's the most brilliant, astute, impartial, and capable jurist in the state of Florida. But as a practicing attorney, I am somewhat constrained by the other judges that are here. So let us all agree that all the judges here are erudite and very much above average. But only one has written the book Lawyer and Legends of Manatee County. Before I go further, judicial ethics cannot allow the judge to promote his book. If you choose to purchase this book, you may do so in the hallway from the booking agent, Janine, also known as Gilbert's Bookie. You will find this book to be an outstanding exploration of not only the lawyers and judges of Manatee County, but our history. It really helps us today to understand who we are by looking about from whence we came. And it reminded me of an extraordinary lawyer and historian, Dewey Dye, who really set the stage for, I think, Judge Smith's efforts and what he is doing for our community today. So who is Gilbert Smith? Well, Gilbert had a burden growing up. His father was one of the most esteemed jurists to ever sit on the bench in Manatee County. And if that wasn't enough, his uncle, Chesterfield Smith, was considered not only an icon of the bar, he was an icon of the Florida bar, he was an icon of the American bar. He was someone that I'm sure young Gilbert not only looked up to, but probably said, how can I follow these two great men? So he didn't. He became a hospital orderly. He became a mortician aide. He was a parole officer. All right, then he became a banker and a scout leader. And eventually, the man known as wearing many hats, literally and figuratively, became a lawyer whose skill and integrity as a lawyer and a judge and an author is well known and well respected, well regarded. The Florida Bar president said recently, "Lawyers are not merely practitioners of the law, but stewards of justice entrusted with safeguarding fairness, equity, and the rule of law in our communities." Judge Smith embraces this charge with dedication, integrity, and optimism for what lies ahead. Gilbert is constantly elevating those around him. His creating this history, this book, capturing who we were, is part of his service to this community. Warts and all, not every story in there is charming, including one involving his father. You need to read it to find out. But you will enjoy this book. And now let's enjoy Gilbert Smith, lawyer, judge, author, and historian.
All right, thank you so much, Cliff. That was really nice. So I want to turn your attention to the monitors, and I hope you enjoy this video.
I will never reject from any consideration personal to myself the cause of the defenseless or the oppressed or delay anyone's cause for lucre or malice. So help me God.
And so every lawyer's career begins with a promise and commitment to help those who cannot afford the legal services they so desperately need. Pro bono services are at the heart of a lawyer's duty. Pro bono means for the public good. Our constitutional due process rights ensure that persons charged with crimes receive legal representation when they cannot afford it through the office of the public defender. But who provides such services in all other areas of the law? Every lawyer in the 12th Judicial Circuit and every lawyer in Florida. The Florida Bar now mandates lawyers to provide legal services at no cost or at reduced cost to try to fill the needs of the public for the public good. But it wasn't always that way. Let's take a journey back in time. On January 9, 1855, Manatee County was established. It included all the land from about 10 miles north of the Manatee River, which is now Hillsborough County, all the area which is now Sarasota County, south to Charlotte Harbor, from the Gulf of Mexico east to the western shore of Lake Okeechobee. There were settlements all along the Manatee River. Except for these villages, most of the county was unexplored frontier, inhabited by wild animals. And I don't mean the lawyers. I mean real panthers, bears, wolves, and alligators. It was with this backdrop that the county seat was determined and located at the village of Manatee. Until the first courthouse was completed in 1861, county government had been conducting business in churches or stores. Once this courthouse was built, business from all 5,000 square miles of the county was conducted in one central location. This courthouse included a courtroom for the judiciary. Florida divided the judicial jurisdiction into circuits. Originally, the Southern Judicial Circuit, which stretched from Brooksville all the way to Key West, specifically encompassing what is now Manatee and Sarasota counties. During this era, the judges traveled to each county seat in the circuit. They often traveled many miles by horseback and became known as circuit riders. Enough for now about the judges. Let's look at one of the first attorneys, Edgar Mandelbert Graham, a veteran of the Civil War, and his family arrived in Manatee County in 1867. He was the first lawyer to reside in our geographical area. He practiced law, but also was a Florida legislator, a deputy clerk, and was the superintendent of schools. If that wasn't enough to keep him busy, he was also on the Board of Health and the Board of Trade. But in those days, he probably wasn't tracking billable hours. By this time, the government seat was moved from the village of Manatee 40 miles southwest into the wilderness. Pine Level was born. It wasn't much of a town, but it had a small wooden courthouse and a jail. The town began to grow, and by 1880, it had a post office, a sawmill, boarding houses, general stores, blacksmith, and churches. Oh, and it had saloons. Many saloons. Cowboys roamed the streets of Pine Level patronizing those saloons, those many saloons. Not surprisingly, there were fights every night. Gunfights, knife fights, and just plain fist fights. It was no wonder that Pine Level earned its reputation as a rowdy town. Nevertheless, it was the county government seat for over 20 years. Granted, the first lawyers in Manatee County didn't have an abundance of legal work, but that didn't mean they had time on their hands. These lawyers needed to supplement their income. Many sought appointment to full or part-time positions with the government. They opened businesses outside of the practice of law. For example, they sold real estate and examined titles. They published a newspaper. They owned an abstract company, a tag agency, a nursery, as well as law offices. In 1886, John Hamilton Gillespie arrived, and with the Florida Mortgage and Investment Company, he began the development of downtown Sarasota. Few members of the community had money, so lawyers worked for barter or they worked for free. As commerce increased from the cattle, agriculture, shipping, and transportation, so did legal conflict. Lawyers were hired, but not always paid. They did the work because it was the decent and honorable thing to do. These early lawyers used their advocacy skills to build a better community. They became public servants as mayors, councilmen, and commissioners. They served as judges and justices of the peace. They used those special skills they acquired as lawyers to provide legal services to those who could not represent themselves, for the public good. As such, pro bono service began in Manatee and Sarasota counties.
Well, thank you, everybody, and I want to thank everybody for being here, and my wife's here, Anita, and I want to thank her for being here, as well as a lot of friends and a lot of people who have supported me over the years. I enjoy researching history of Manatee County. I enjoy writing about it, and I hope to share some more with you today, and I hope you enjoyed that video. One attorney here decided to preserve the history of Manatee County in 1970, and before he died, Jack Manson gave me permission to use his mural any way I could. So that's the mural that's on the front of the book. And so I want to, rather than me talk about Jack for a minute, I want you to hear what he has to say.
Woodward is, of course.
Oh, here we go.
Here's Woodward is there. He was the major domo of the bar when it came to land. And so he wouldn't pass a deed that was held by the entireties unless he could see that the marriage was consummated. And so here he is at night up there on the roof looking through his spyglass to see if the marriages are consummated.
So good.
I built a house that I'm still living in on Riverview Boulevard on the river there, and all the bedrooms faced out on the river, and there was a walkway outside of the bedroom. And I bought my daughter for Christmas one year an easel and paints, and she never used them, so I started to paint. And that's how I started, and I really got going.
But no formal training.
No. We had a rat skeller upstairs, and we had a television, and we'd order dinner brought in, and we had a real nice deal. But it was kind of drab, and so I started to paint on the walls. And that was the first one I did. And that was a picture that Jim Wallace had taken at a bar party out on the beach. A lot of those pictures were taken like that. This is Judge Boylston. You see his finger goes all the way through his hair. You know, he's still alive. He's over at Palmetto.
Right. No, it's wonderful.
But without Jim Wallace, and the reason I put that white wig on is he was bald. And so, well, he was, right. I think his initials are down in the corner someplace. Because he really, without him, I couldn't have painted it.
Why is that?
Well, because I couldn't remember all those people, but he took he took an individual picture of each guy.
And when I saw it, I said, "Jack, I'm not in there." He said, "He says, why not?" I said, "I don't know." I said, "I wasn't. I was absent from the meeting that day that you took the picture that you painted it from." And he said, "Well, I'll find a place to put you." So he has me perched on the top of the.
You can point to it, I think. You just.
There's a martini glass there.
There it is. I see
And I don't even like martinis. I'm not sure whether it's that one or this one, but it's this one right there.
Yeah.
Because it has a fishing rod with it.
and that's a clue. You like to fish.
That's right. Yeah, I love to fish.
Well, back in the day, say 1970, that painting there represents the Manatee Bar.
Correct.
At that time, so you're in there somewhere.
I'm in the back row here somewhere, and Jack told me, he said, "You're back there somewhere. I had to stick you in there." So I said, "Okay, thanks, Jack."
So who's the super lawyer? Somebody has on.
Oh, okay. That was for Bill Grimes, and here the T-shirt. He actually tried to get everybody in his office to wear kind of a uniform, but his sister, who was not a lawyer, she ran the office. I mean, she really was the boss, see? And I remember his father was there, and So that's why I painted Bill Grimes right on Carter Perry's T-shirt. And I put
It's good likeness of him too.
well, sure. Well, I had a good picture.
So Jack was quite the individual, and I just want to talk to you about him for just a minute before I go on with some slides that I hope you enjoy and some discoveries that I made in researching the book. He was, besides being a prosperous and successful attorney, he was a great humanitarian, and from, hopefully this will come on the next slide, but besides involved in the DeSoto celebration, he hobnobbed with U.S. presidents as well as also governors. But in addition to that, for 30 or 40 years, he was in the feeding line at the our Daily Bread, feeding the homeless. And Cliff Walters is one that he took over there at times to stand in that line with him. So he was an example for all of us, and doing community service as part of his practice of law. And so another person who is actually on that list that you've been working on is Tom Gallen. I do want to show you that this is a reunion of the people in the mural. And you can see how big the mural is, Jack standing in front of it, and that's located in the Manatee County Judicial Center on the first floor. And I focused in real close on some of the scenes in the mural, and if you really do have to look close because you find out all kind of secrets that are discovered. This is the spyglass that the one lawyer was using to make sure that marriage has been consummated before he would execute a deed. That's Walter Woodward. Now, Nick Baden said that didn't happen, but who knows? This is Tom Gallen, and our member, Tom Gallen, who recently passed away. A lot of people don't know it, but in Tom's career, he was one of the most influential legislators in the state of Florida during his time. And I wanted to make mention of him because he was a member here for a long time. Another lawyer that was a member here that a lot of people probably have forgotten is a young man who grew up, who made a difference in the north part of the river. And this is a Cub Scout, Ralph Haben. And Ralph became a criminal. He became a lawyer, practicing attorney, grew up in Palmetto, and went on to become Speaker of the House in the 1980s. And he was instrumental after this club dedicated $500,000 to make sure that that Civic Center was built. Ralph Haben, as being Speaker of the House, really helped make sure that it happened. So we had quite a few Kiwanians who were the charter members of this club who were also attorneys, and Dewey Dye, that's Judge Harrison there. This is Judge Kimball. This is George Smith. Critchlaw is his name. And that's John Singletary. And this is John Vanderripe and John House. Now, I put this up here so that you would see that this is Pine Level, which a lot of you know where that is. It's in Hillsborough and in DeSoto County now, but I like this photograph so much I always use it. And this is a photograph of Bone Mizell with his dad and uncle. And his dad's on, your right, that is Morgan, and then on his right is Enoch. That's his, and he was one of the famous cowboy that I talk about in my book, who became the most famous or notorious cowboy. This, of course, you just saw in the video what the county looked like at one time, and when it was divided up, Pine Level went to DeSoto County. This is downtown Bradenton, and it was called Bradentown at that time with an I, and that's Main Street looking north. This is the Corwin's Dock that stuck out from Main Street. And this is my new discovery. Now I've never seen this photo before I discovered this, and I found this in a St. Petersburg Times article. And the St. Petersburg, a lot of people don't know, the Times went back into the 1800s. This is a photograph that's not in the digital for Manatee County, and I've never seen it before. And this is a picture of Adeline Graham's hotel, boarding house in 1890, and it's on the back of my book. And the reason it's on the back of the book is because after the county seat came back from Pine Level to Bradenton, and there's a story all about that they didn't have a place for the county seat to be, so they had to rent a place, and they rented the hotel. And on the bottom floor is where the courts were. And the judges were on the bottom floor, and the county commissioner were on the top floor. This is what it looked like in 1900 with a lot of oaks, and I put this other next picture up here, which is a piece of art, it turns into what's called the Gar House. And a lot of you may know from growing up here or living here, the Gar House was there from about 1895 until probably 1980. As some of you remember, it was on the corner of Main Street and 4th. Now it's a parking lot. So they tore that down when they did that. Here's a picture of the courthouse that I use in the book. And this is the courthouse, the wooden courthouse that was built in 1895 and was on the corner of Manatee Avenue and Main Street, but it was farther over, closer to near where the Grimes professional building is, where the Grimes law firm is. And that's the one I used in the book, and this is the one that's on my first book. And that's the intersection of Main Street in about 1910 when they had electricity now. And this is the one, I wanted you to look really close at this. This is my other new discovery. And this I discovered almost the same way, and that is some horse carts pulling some type of product. But if you can see just in the background, you can see the courthouse. Now that shows there to me what it was like, how much in wilderness it was really outside of town. And that was exciting to me, and maybe not so exciting to people who don't, love history as much as I, but it really did show what the terrain was like and what it was like at that time. So, I was very excited about that. I put this in the book because, when we had this COVID pandemic, and it was such a news event that got so much attention, there was so much tragedy and so forth. This is the pandemic in 1918 of the Spanish flu, and you may remember that from history. Well, it was treated much like what we had COVID happen here. There was a lot of mixed feelings about how to deal with it, and a lot of politics got involved in it. And so often there was never any news on it. And so this is an article that's about something that has nothing to do with that pandemic, but it's buried in the article of how Judge Reeves here suspended court because he couldn't get a jury. There weren't enough, jurors. They were too infected. And remember, in 1918, never did come a vaccine. Millions of people were killed, and finally, people just became immune, and it went away. Now, this Justice of the Peace Stevens, he decided it would be a good idea to meet in the middle of the road to settle an argument with a neighbor of his in Monica City, and he was knifed to death. So that wasn't a good idea by this Justice of the Peace. Now, this article has to do with all the hangings that occurred in Manatee County in the early 1900s. There weren't many illegal hangings. In the 1800s, it's been recorded of. I'm sure there were many, but there were like many articles, and if I can get this clicker going a little faster, I just wanted to show you all the different articles. Well, so guess what? None of the articles appeared locally. They were all in the Tampa Tribune. Some of them were in papers from up north. And there never was much covered down here, and these were lynchings that happened, you would call them, but illegal hangings. Now, I wish the mayor was here today because they had something called mayor's court in the early 1900s that was allowed by law, and the mayor was able to conduct court just like a judge and take care of matters. And most of what they did were disorderly intoxication, but one of the more popular ones, speeding over a bridge. This is Gabby Knowles, Gordon Knowles, our member here, one of our leading in Bradenton, Kiwanis, and he was a mayor at the time, and I found an interesting story of him, and here he is with two famous people, Thomas Edison and Henry Ford. And both of them were frequent visitors to Bradenton at that time and got to know Gabby Knowles pretty well, and they were here a lot, and I'm sure that Dewey Dye and some of the other people in that era also had a lot of interaction with him. In fact, Thomas Edison had bought and started a rubber company. He invented a sort of rubber, and I think probably Henry Ford was going to be interested in that, but he came to Reasoner's nursery because there was a certain kind of plant that he used for growing the materials for that. Okay, so this is Sam Murphy. And Sam Murphy became a county judge, but before he did that, he was a traffic officer for Antey County. And one day, a speeder came through town, and he put on his light, and it wouldn't stop. This car wouldn't stop, so he kept following this car, and he followed it all the way almost to Hillsborough County, and it turned out to be Babe Ruth, except he didn't know it was Babe Ruth, and he didn't know who he was. But anyway, this appeared in the Tampa Tribune, and Babe Ruth was not happy, and there's quite a few articles about that. Now, I put this in here. This is the Florida Association of Women Lawyers, and this is one of the projects that they do. And I just put some of these photos up here and here's Ray Bellamy's Thanksgiving drive, just to show how we have come through to perform community service, lawyers do. And so it's, there's another one. This was done by the young lawyers, and it was Wills for Heroes that they did, and it was after 9/11 that they continued that to perform pro bono service by writing wills for free for a lot of the first responders. And this is, I just wanted to show this, and this is the child welfare attorneys, and I put them in here just to show them. We've got some members that are here that are Bradenton Kiwanis members, and they're in that. They're not here for them to see today, but let's see if we can. So this is one of my favorite characters, and you'll wonder why, but when you read about him in the book, you'll understand. This is Captain James Green, and he was a sort of a rebel. He was a cattleman, but he decided to, when everybody else in Florida was joining the Confederacy, he thought he'd sort of lay back and not join. He was more concerned about selling cattle to Cuba than he was to fight the North. And so when it came down to his exemption from the draft was ended, he decided to join the Union Army. So he joined the Union Army, and of course, that gamble paid off because the North won, so he became the most powerful person in this area after the Civil War and was responsible for a lot of people that were appointed to a lot of positions. And this is the Pine Level Courthouse that has been drafted to what it might have looked like. So let's see, let me move up and give you the answer to the quiz. Okay, here's the answer to the quiz. So who got, let's see, who got 24 right? Did anybody get 24 right? Okay. So I do want to tell you that I enjoy researching and writing about Manatee County history. The subject I think you got too many. I don't know what that does to you. I don't know what it does. Anyway, and I enjoy the writing and the researching and about the legal history of Manatee County, and I'm going to continue doing it. But in addition to what's about the law in this book and about the lawyers, there's actually a lot of other history about this area that I hope that you will enjoy. And that is that one thing to take from the book that I want you to is that just like all of us do in Kiwanis, lawyers try to do their part in building their community and volunteering around the community. And that's what I want you to take from this. So thank you very much for allowing me to speak to you today, and have a nice day. And I have a gift certificate from where else? Turner's. And but I don't know how to do this since now we have 34. And there was only 24 members that have been, so I will reconcile that. I'll have to, and I'll have Cliff mediate that if I have to. So thank you, Mike.
Hang on, Gilbert. Hang on, Gilbert.
Max said I didn't have to, but
He didn't?
yeah.
He's passing up on the golden ruler. I don't know about that, Gilbert. Anyway, thank you for the history. We've got it's great. In school, I didn't really care that much about history, but in recent years, I've been really interested in the history. And around here in Manatee, in Gilbert's books, you know all the characters, in those books, because their names are on the sides of buildings, and they're out there, and their relatives are still around in most cases. But anyway, thank you for the history lesson on that, Gilbert. And all those books can be purchased right outside, as I think Cliff had mentioned earlier. So without further ado, Deacon Kevin McKinney with Family Promise is going to be coming next week for our meeting. The week after that, we're heading out to the ball game. So I thank you all for being here today. Great meeting, and go forward and continue to do great things this week. Meeting adjourned.